Using cell ranges and formulas. In Excel, groups of cells are called ranges. The cell groups are either continuous or non-continuous. You can name, define ranges, change the size of ranges after you define them, and use name range in formulas. The name box and the name manager help you keep track of the name ranges and their cell addresses. You can also use the paste names command to create a list of name ranges and their addresses in a worksheet. Naming a range. When you refer to the same cell range over and over, it might be more convenient to give it a name. Excel recognizes the name as a cell range and uses the values in those cells to do what you specify. For instance, if you have a series of sales figures in a column, instead of referring to them as the range C4, C10, you can name them cells Q3. Anytime you use the name cells Q3 in a formula, Excel would then use the values in those cells. So we're going to use the 4 Budget Ranges workbook, and we're going to click Enable Content if prompted, and if a message box is displayed, click Continuous. Click Yes if prompted to make a file a trusted document. Click the Expense Detail Sheets tab. Select B3 through D14. In the left of the formula bar, click the name box. Type a one-word name for the list, such as Q1 expenses. And then press Enter. The range name appears in the name box. Excel saves this name and uses it in any subsequent references to this range. An alternative way to name a range is to use the New Name dialog box. Select B16 through M16. Click the Formulas tab, and then in the Define Names group, click Define Names. The New Name dialog box opens. Excel uses the row heading as the range name, shown in the Name text box. You can change the name if you'd like. For this exercise, leave the default name. Click the Scope drop-down arrow. Your options are Workbook, Expense Details, and Summary. The last two entries correspond to the individual sheets in the workbook. Select Workbook. Type a comment in the comment text box if you like. Leave the reference that appears in the Refers to text box. This is the range you selected. Notice that the sheet name is also included automatically. Click OK, and the name Unity's Subtotals is saved for the range B16 through M16. A third way to name a range is to use the Create Name from Sections dialog box. Select N2 through N14. This section includes the column heading label. On the Formulas tab, in the Define Names group, click Create from Selection. The Create Names from Selection dialog box opens. Excel determines that you want to use the column heading label as the range name. Click OK. The range is saved with the name total. Click the Name box drop-down arrow. You have 3 name ranges from which to select. Press Escape to close the list. As you learned in Lesson 2, a range is a group of adjacent cells that you select to perform operations on all of the selected cells. You refer to a cell range by separating the first and last cell in the range by a colon, such as B1 colon B9 and D4 colon G9. A named range is a group of cells and occasionally a single cell with a designated name. The most common reason to name a range is to refer to it in formulas and functions. Naming ranges or an individual cell according to the data they contain is a time-saving technique, even though it might not seem so when you work with limited data files and practice exercises. However, naming a range in a larger complex worksheet enables you to go to the location quickly, similar to a bookmark. After selecting a range of cells, you can name the range using 3 different methods: by typing a name in the name box next to the formula bar, by using the New Name dialog box, by using the Create Names from the Selection dialog box. Rules and guidelines for naming ranges include the following. Range names can be up to 255 characters in length. Range names may begin with a letter, the underscore character, or backslash. The rest of the name may include letters, numbers, periods, and underscore characters, but not a backslash. Range names may not consist solely of the letter C or R, which are used as shortcuts for selecting columns or rows. Range names may not include spaces. Microsoft recommends you use the underscore character or periods to separate words such as fruit underscore list or personal dot budget. Range names cannot be the same as a cell reference such as A7 or B3. All names have a scope, either to specify a worksheet or the entire workbook. The scope of a name is the location within which Excel recognizes the name without qualification. Excel requires that a name must be unique within its scope, but you can use the same name in different scopes. In the New Name dialog box, if you select a worksheet name from the scope list, the scope is at the local worksheet level. If you select workbook, the scope is at the global workbook level. If you define a name range after you entered a cell reference in a formula, you might want to update the existing cell reference to the defined name. Select an empty cell, click the arrow next to Define Name, and click Apply Names. In the Apply Names dialog box, click on one or more names and click OK. After creating name ranges, you can select a name in the new box list to select the name range on the worksheet. Creating a formula that operates on a name range. You can use the name of any range in a formula, just as you can use a cell identifier. So we're going to use the worksheet for Budget Ranges Solution Workbook. In the Expense Detail sheet, we're going to click cell A21. Type first quarter expenses and then press Tab. In cell B21, type equal sum parentheses. On the Formulas tab in the Define Names group, click Use in Formula. Select Q1 Expenses from the list to close the formula and then press Enter. The total amount of expenses for January through March appear in cell B21.